Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm going to allow just a couple minutes here for folks to enter the room, and we'll get started in just about 2 minutes. All right, it looks like people are making their way in. We'll give it just another minute or so. All right, great. So once again, thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome to our Bishop Plus series. We have a whole series of these events all throughout the summer and into the fall. So stay tuned for more content just about every other week or so. You'll be seeing new opportunities to join us. In tonight's event, we're going to be hearing some tips and tricks going beyond the tour, ways to think about kicking off your college search. So you're about to embark on a really exciting journey. Some of you have already dove in with both feet. Some of you, this might be the first experience in your search. Tonight, we've got a couple of great speakers, both from Ohio Wesleyan University. You're going to hear some examples that may be specific to OWU, but keep in mind that today is really a discussion for your college search at large, and that a lot of the information that you're going to hear tonight is going to be, I would say, generally universal. And so while as you're going about your search, you're probably going to hear this tonight to make sure that you check any specifics with institutions that you're starting to add to your list. But you should know that much of what you're going to hear tonight is going to be applicable as you go throughout the college search. So I know that they will introduce themselves a little bit further, but our first panelist tonight is Connor Green. He's an Ohio Wesleyan alum, class of 2017. He's an assistant director of admission in our office. Connor travels to the Southwest. He also visits with students in our native Ohio, and he'll be talking with you a little bit. Also tonight joining us is our panelist, Courtney Dunn. She's also class of 2017. So you're going to hear a lot of, we have a podcast called Bishop Banter. You should check out Bishop Banter, but you might hear a little bit of that tonight because Courtney and Connor have been doing this for a while. They know a lot of this, the ins and outs of the college search. Courtney's also an assistant director of admission. She travels and meets with students from a lot of places on both coasts, California, New York. She's also going to be visiting with students from Georgia this coming fall as well. So they'll reach out with contact information. You'll start to hear more information from them. My name is Rob Walton. I'm Associate Director of Admission in the Office of Admission at Ohio Wesleyan University. And I'm going to be moderating tonight. So feel free to use the Q&A box that you have. If any questions come up, that's a great way for you to get those questions to us. I will be able to get those questions out in front of the audience, as well as to both Connor and Courtney. And later on throughout the presentation, we're going to be sending you a poll. So whether you're mobile-based or you're on your laptop or a tablet tonight, you'll be able to complete a simple, just a few question poll, and that'll help inform maybe some of the conversation or the Q&A towards the end of tonight's program. We anticipate that we'll be wrapping up sometime within an hour or less, but certainly the conversation doesn't have to end today. We'll have plenty of opportunity both throughout this Bishop Plus series, as well as just through some of our other sessions and opportunities to visit. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Connor and Courtney, and take it away.
All right, thank you, Rob. That was great. I guess I can start and go ahead and do a little bit further of an introduction of myself. So like Rob said, I am one of the assistant directors of admission here at OU, class of 2017. I was actually a sociology anthropology major at OU with a psychology minor as well. So what I tell everybody is I just basically studied a lot of ologies. Let's see. Also, I was a student athlete, so I played baseball my very first year, and then moved on and did a few other things. So I, let's see, I was a part of the Jaywalkers a cappella group, which was a lot of fun. Loved doing that. I was a part of the wrestling club for 2 weeks. Little joke for one of my friends. But I had a lot of fun at OU and got to be involved in a lot of things. Originally, I'm actually from Medina, Ohio, which is up by Cleveland, and heard about OU and started to learn more about it as I visited campus. So all of you attending here are actually a lot further in your college search than I was. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. So I visited late and toured late and did those kinds of things. So for me, it's an important thing to help others start early and see what your options are like and investigate and really dive into some different places to see what it is that you enjoy. See, if things listed of what I am supposed to say for my introductions, I think I veered away. But one of the big things about why I chose OU for me was that one, like I said, I started a little late. So I was looking at a school to play baseball at, and I ended up talking with our baseball coach at OU and kind of went through that process. But additionally, I was looking for a place so that I can meet new people and different people. I was from a small town, Medina, and really only knew people from there. And so I wanted to go to a place that was diverse and different and be able to meet people from all over the country, all over the world and the state, and meet people from different, racial, religious, ethnic, sexual orientation backgrounds, and just get to know different people and have different experiences. So for me, OU is a place that I could do that at. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Courtney, you want to go? I'm pointing this way. You might be on that side. I'm not sure.
Thanks, Connor. Beautiful introduction. I feel like we really got to know you and the things that you did during your time at OU. But my name is Courtney Dunn. I am also a 2017 grad. Had the opportunity to be interns together in the OU admission office and have now found ourselves back in the OU admission office as staff members. And so we really love talking about OU. I think both of us had a really incredible experience, and we really love sharing that experience with prospective students. Finding your home for the next 4 years can be really overwhelming. It can be, there's so many different factors that go into that search, and so we are here through that tonight. During my time at Ohio Wesleyan, I was a double major in journalism and theater, and I really was looking for a liberal arts school when I was doing my college search. I had no idea what I wanted to study, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went into college undecided and did took a lot of different classes and had the opportunity to travel a little And so I found myself doing theater and journalism, and have now found my way into college admission as a career. But I think for me, the liberal arts was allowing me to explore and learn how to learn. And why I chose OWU, I think I had a very non-traditional path, but as I did a college tour 3 separate times at Ohio Wesleyan before I came to decide that this was where I wanted to be. And I think that you don't have to do that all the time, but I had someone in my corner who really wanted me to attend OWU, and I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm still looking at other schools. And they were like, I think you should go back one more time. And I was like, okay, I'll go back one more time. And I ended up coming back 3 times, and it took 3 times for me to get a tour guide that I really loved. And I think for me, I based my college search a lot on the students that I met on campus. I loved what OWU had to offer, and I knew that all I wanted to do in college was travel. I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to, like Connor said, meet new people, like really jump into all of these new experiences. And so 3rd time was a charm for me. I got a tour guide who talked about her 4 different abroad experiences, and I got a tour guide that really helped me connect to the university. So I think as you're going through your college search, thinking about how can you find those people on college campuses that can talk to the experiences that you're specifically looking for. And some colleges are not going to be the right fit, some may be, but really asking those nitty-gritty questions of the things that you're looking for during your college search. So that's a little bit about me. I think Connor and I would love to share our best piece of advice with you all. As you're starting this journey, it is very non-traditional this year. We're just going to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. You all are doing things virtually. Some campuses are open, some campuses are not open. But how can we help you navigate this new world of college admission online, a little bit in person? How can we help you do that? And Connor and I would love to just kick this off with giving you all some advice on maybe our favorite moment as we were looking for colleges. Connor, do you want to go first on that one?
For sure. Yeah, so one of the biggest pieces of advice that I have, for me personally, because I know that when I was in college, things changed, and I, played baseball for a year, but did something else. I started as an education major and then jumped to be a sociology major, and a lot of my experiences and things changed. So for me, what my biggest piece of advice is, of course, look at the academics of a school, see what the majors and the extracurriculars and the activities and things are that you are interested in. And of course, do your research and find out what those are and see what they're like at that school. But one of the biggest things that I like to look for and like people to look for is look at the atmosphere of the school, or the spirit of the campus. When you're walking around campus, or if you're on a Zoom meeting, or a virtual tour, or whatever it might be, see how people talk about the school. Listen to, are people laughing? Are they smiling? Are they enjoying their time and happy about being on the campus or talking about school? Or are they stressed? Are they tired? Is it, laborious for them to do that? For me, that's an important measurement of what that school experience is like. Just because, like I said, things change and things can be different. But that's one thing that usually sticks the same throughout while you're at a school. So that's my biggest piece of advice is look for those more atmospheric things about the college, about the school. And I'll share one fun thing about, we, like Courtney said, we were both interns in the admission office and tour guides too. And so I just want to share, 1 or 2 fun moments about the times that we were tour guides. So one good one for me, and this is more of a what not to do on tour, was that I was giving a tour one time, walking backwards as tour guides do, and noticed that one of the attendees on the tour had leaned over and bitten a leaf off of a tree to taste it. That might be a good way to test if that's the school for you or not. I'm not sure. That could be a way. To each their own, but that was always a funny one. Another fun one was that I was giving a tour to a family once, and we were by one of our residence halls, Stuyvesant Hall. If you take a virtual tour, you'll see it. But next to it is one of our old observatories, and it's a old historic building on our campus. And we were walking by, and one of our public safety officers was actually driving by and offered to take us in and show it to us. And that was one of the coolest things because it was the first time I got to see it. But of course, I acted like I had been there before. But it's things like that that I always loved about giving tours, and being on tours was just the experience of it, seeing a new place, walking around. I toured a lot of colleges and universities with my brother and my sister, who are both older than me. And so I got the little kid experience of walking around and thinking buildings were giant and huge, and everybody was gigantic around me, which is still how it feels to be at OU, honestly. Courtney, what are your pieces of advice and experience as a tour guide?
Great question. I think I'll start with my pieces of advice. I really love your story about the kid who ate the leaf. Every time you tell that story, it never ceases to be funny every time you tell it. But piece of advice, I would say, as you're going to start your college search, every college across the country is different, but at the same time, there are similarities to all of these institutions as well. And so thinking about, what are your non-negotiables? What do you want to be a part of your college experience? Because you can narrow down your search that way in a lot of ways. So for me, my non-negotiables were, I wanted a small school. I didn't want to be in a classroom with 100 other students. I wanted to be in a smaller classroom where the professor knew my name. I wanted a school where I was going to have the opportunity to travel, not just once, not just twice, but maybe 3 or 4 times. I really wanted a school where I could join Greek life. Both of my parents had been Greek prior, and so I knew of Greek life, and they had had a really positive experience, and so I knew that I wanted Greek life to be a part of my college experience. I really wanted to study theater, but coming out of high school, I did not want to major in theater. I ended up majoring in theater, but coming into college, I did not want to study theater. I wanted that to just be a part of my college experience. And at the end of the day, I was able to do a double major. And so if that is something that you're interested in, say you have a strong passion for music or fine arts, doing the liberal arts route allows you to not sacrifice those passions that you have for the arts or athletics, for the things that you want to do in the classroom. So you could tag on a double major with pre-med and music, or you can do sociology and music. There's so many different combinations. And for me, I wanted a school that was going to allow me to explore a lot of different routes. And for some students, they're like, I want a structured path. I want people to tell me what that's going to look like. And so thinking about what are those non-negotiable aspects that you're looking for as you're starting your college search, and asking those questions when you're on tour too. Sometimes a tour guide will be able to answer them, and sometimes they may not, and you can ask a staff member on that campus if your tour guide's not able to answer those questions. So I think that would be my strongest piece of advice, is have a list of those non-negotiable things. I know for my mom and I, when we were touring schools, we got to a campus, we sat through the info session, and we were like, this is not for me, and we left. And that's okay. I think at the end of the day, if you are not feeling that vibe, then sometimes you need to do what's best for you in those moments. So obviously tell someone that you're going to leave, but this is your journey, and finding where you want to be and where you want to call home for 4 years is your decision to make. And then just some fun stories. I feel like being on tour, I was giving a tour, and we would show real rooms that students actually lived in, and the students were not supposed to be home when we were showing their room. And we walked in to a room one time, and there was someone in the bed. You know, as you go on tour, things happen. These are real people, real places that you're seeing. And so you'll really get the authentic experience. And then one other small tidbit, Connor talked a lot about really starting your process early and starting now. And I think my favorite story, and I still to this day remember the woman who came to visit, her name was Hannah Wargo. She came to visit Ohio Wesleyan University, and she came on May 1st, which is decision day. And she was like, I need to make my college decision today, and I don't know where I want to go. And so we walked around campus at Ohio Wesleyan for probably 2.5 hours talking about what she was looking for, and not just talking about Ohio Wesleyan, but talking about her non-negotiables and talking about the vibe, as Connor talked about on campus, what environment she wanted to be in terms of her learning environment, her social environment. And so I think that was probably my favorite story of just getting to know the student and talking her through what does going to college look like, and what does making this decision look like for you. If you're a spreadsheet person, I had a friend that had a 15-sheet spreadsheet of all of the different colleges she was looking at and did a pros, cons, and ranking system. So whatever you need to do to make that decision, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Courtney, I don't know if you know this, but Hannah Wargo actually went to my high school, and I was one of the people that suggested her to visit OWU. Didn't know she was visiting on the last day, so that's a new fact. But
Yes.
Yeah, same high school.
Crazy small world. Love
Yes. Well, awesome. Well, so like Courtney mentioned a little while ago, you know, there's an elephant in the room that visiting campus is a little different right now for all of you. And it might be a little different for a little bit. And so we're going to give a few examples of how you can visit a school without physically being there. And we're going to cite a lot of OWU-esque examples, but know that, you know, every university has a lot of these examples, and you can find a lot of things going to a website of different schools. So keep that in mind as we go through. So Courtney, you want to start us off with the very first one here?
I can. So the first one, take a virtual tour. Simple as that. Most schools right now are offering in some capacity a virtual tour, whether it's a filmed tour across campus, whether it's an interactive experience where you can choose the buildings you want to go in and out of. You can, it kind of works like Google Maps, where you can just click across campus and it has a guided tour for you to follow. Or you can just stop at the places that you're interested in as well. But I think taking a virtual tour is a really great start right now, because it gives you a sense of campus. It may not give you the environment or the feel that Connor was talking about, but it is going to give you the factual information that you're looking for in terms of seeing, what do buildings look like? What does a classroom look like? How big or small are the classrooms? Because if you're taking a tour at Ohio Wesleyan, our classrooms tend to be on the smaller side. We have an extremely historic campus, and so we incorporate a lot of that history in our tour. But if you go just down the road to Ohio State, their virtual tour may look very different because their classrooms are much larger. Their student experience is much different. So I think taking that virtual tour to get a sense of what are we choosing to show you, and do those align with, does the tour align with the things that you're looking for in terms of your college experience? So Connor, do you want to take the next one? What are other virtual options?
Yeah, I will in one moment. Rob, I hear you're chiming in here for a moment.
Yeah, I think you know, we've gotten quite a bit of information right now. One of the things that I wanted to do to maybe continue the conversation is I'm gonna release a poll. I had mentioned that earlier. There's just a few questions on here. I'm gonna launch that to the audience. If you wouldn't mind taking just a quick minute. Connor and Courtney will continue to chat and add some more you know, words of wisdom in terms of starting your search. But while you're listening in, if you could fill out this poll, and then we'll utilize that to kind of inform how we want to continue going forward. So I'm going to send that just now. So you've got that in progress. I'll wait to close it out for maybe about 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Rob, you remind me a little bit well, when you come in and out like that, like Clippy from Microsoft Word. I don't know if that's too late in the game for anybody who is attending this right now. I don't know if Clippy
They
is
had
still a
Apple
thing.
by the time they were
Uh,
coming to the digital world.
Missing out. That little paper clip in the corner helped me a lot when I was doing things. All right, so jumping into the next way to virtually visit here. So the next big one really is another, you know, relatively a simple one, like taking a campus tour. It's chatting with an admission counselor. So someone like me or Courtney or Rob, you know, all universities have an admission staff, and you know, whether you want to, you know, converse via text or email or phone call or a Google chat or Zoom meeting or something along those lines, it's good to be able to talk to someone just to understand what the process is like. You know, there's a lot to do no matter when you start. So, you know, if you start early like you are right now, you know, doing visits like this, getting the in-depth information. If you're starting that application process, usually in August, one of the admission counselors will be there to help guide you and talk you through what materials are needed, help converse with your high school, you know, go through those processes and just make things easier. That's one of the things that I always say about us is that really our job is just to make things easier for you all. As much as I want to help every student come to OU, my goal at the end of the day is to help every student go to college. And I think that's all admission counselors, you know, around the world here is we just want to help as best we can to get the information to you and help you make the best decision to get to the place that you will benefit the most out of. And like I said, you can talk to us, you know, every day throughout the year. We'll do our best to get information to you as fast as we can and just help out. You can learn a lot from talking to different admission counselors, different places, and it just gives you another way to just learn a little bit more information. You can see us at college fairs whenever college fairs come back. There are virtual college fairs that you can attend as well. So keep your eye out for those. If you reach out to your guidance counselor at your high school, they might have a list of those. They might be able to let you know when those are coming up, whether they're virtual or live. And if you are going to live college fairs, you know, come up to tables, talk to us. We'd love to talk to you, trust me. But it's a good way just to learn a little bit more information. We'll talk with you and your family, your parents, your aunts, uncles, friends, grandparents, whoever it is. Just let us know. We're really here to help.
Very true. I agree with everything that you said there, Connor. Be yourself too when you're talking to us. I think that's the other thing. Be very genuine, be very authentic. That is the way that you're going to find the best fit for you. I remember conversations that I have with students where they talk about the things that they're really, really passionate about to see, do we have programs? I distinctly remember talking with a student this past year about his passion for ornithology, which is the study of birds. And he was so knowledgeable, and he wrote his college essay about that topic. And I had remembered my conversation with him about it. And so I think really showing who you are in your essay and your conversations in the college admission process will help you find that home. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to us as admission counselors, I think sometimes that gets more intimidating. Reach out to students at that university. If you go on our website or any college's website, there will be some capacity that you can reach out to a student. You can email them, or we have chat bubbles that'll say, talk with this student, and you can scroll through the students and you can see what they study, some of their other interests on or what they study in their extracurricular activities and where they're from. So you can ask them more specific questions that you may not feel comfortable asking us, or that we may not know as well. I think for us, we may not know the social culture on campus as well. Connor and I are both grads, but things have changed. And so asking a current student, what do you do on the weekend? Asking them, where do you go in Columbus to eat? If you go off campus to a coffee shop, what coffee shops do you go to? Asking them about how they found their internships. there's a lot of students doing really cool internships across the country. And so asking students how they found those, what resources are available, how helpful those resources were as they were doing their search for internships. There's a lot of great things that only students will be able to tell you. So taking the time to ask those questions to the current students, ask them about the dining hall, ask them about the residence hall. They will be brutally honest with you when they're talking about those things. They may tell you that the chicken is not very good, but they really love having peanut butter and jelly and cereal every single night for dinner. So I think it just depends on what that student, where they eat every night. I know at Ohio Wesleyan for us, we have a 24-hour dining hall, and most of our students will choose to eat there and grab midnight snacks while they're studying and things like that. So our students tend to talk a lot about that when they're talking about housing and dining, but really focus in on asking students those questions as well. So what else can we do virtually, Connor?
Well, I thought I might interject myself here. I just closed the poll. Thank you, everybody, for voting. And fitting that we talked a little bit about both housing and dining. That was about as close of a split of the questions that we had. Both housing and dining are definitely important factors per the poll. It sounds like we're talking to a very savvy group of students and families tonight. 3/4 of our students have already been on a college visit, so that's great. The ones who have not been on a physical campus have already done some virtual tours. So every single one of our attendees tonight has done some sort of interaction with a campus tour, whether in person, virtually, or both. We've touched on a lot of different extracurricular activities, but students have said everything from clubs to athletics to arts are important. And we did have about half the group say that internships were also important. Number one, far and away, academic field of interest. So I'm going to share these results out, but maybe if either of you have any insight as far as academic field of interest, both in terms of, for our students who maybe truly don't know what they want to study, they're coming into this maybe completely open-minded, or they've got multiple potential majors, or they really don't even know all the options that exist. To the other end of the spectrum, students who at this stage in the game and at this point in their life, they know that this is the program that they're specifically looking for. Maybe insights that you could share for those students, regardless of where they might end up on that spectrum.
I think we can both very well talk to that because we both came in having no idea what we wanted to do. But do you want to take that first, Connor, and then I'll kind of add to that?
Yeah, sure. I can jump on that just real quick. So like I said earlier, I changed a good amount when I went to college, and things were different than what I thought they were going to be when I came in. And so the biggest advice for me, especially when it comes to the academic side of things, whether you know exactly what you want to do right away, or you don't know, or you have so many options that are so cool that it's so hard to choose, be open to exploration. Be open to taking that class that sounds a little cool and a little different. One of the biggest stories that I always hear of from OU, and one of the people I went to OU with was dedicated to be a fine arts major, but only wanted to do painting. And that's all she wanted to do all 4 years. And one of our professors, convinced her to take, hey, just take one other course. Just take one other one, see what it's like. You can stick with painting, it's fine. Well, she took one animation course, loved it so much, got a internship being an animator, and is now an animator at Disney. So be open, take classes, see what it's like, see what's different. Because personally, I would have never found the major that I found had I not been open to exploration. I was dead set on being an education major and being a 7th grade history teacher. But I took, somebody talked about a sociology course that I was like, oh, that could be cool. I remember it was It was called The Family, basically, and it was with one of my favorite professors of all time, Dr. Ted Cohen. He was my favorite professor. I took 3 classes with him in one semester. It was amazing. But I loved that class so much, and had I not been open to exploring something else, I wouldn't have taken it. And ultimately, that's what drew me and made me excited to study and enjoy that. So that's my biggest piece of advice when it comes to, all of these different things that you can do, or trying to figure out what it is that you want to do. Just be open, explore, and see what's out there.
Agreed with everything you said, Connor. Just to tag on a little bit more to that, I think that Ohio Wesleyan has both of those students. Like my freshman year roommate was a pre-med major, and she knew she wanted to be a doctor. That was her life path, and that was what she was going to do. And I had no idea. So I think living with her, I really had the chance to see the 2 different paths that we were on, but we were able to combine a lot of our extracurricular activities. Joining the same sorority, we were able to still do a lot of social things together, even though we were on 2 very different academic paths while we were at Ohio Wesleyan. And I think, like Connor said, taking a class that may be out of your realm, listen to your peers and your professors. I had a professor who was like, this application for a travel learning course, or for a course that was going to travel in the spring, was staying open. And so I was like, okay, I'll just apply. And I got into the course, and it helped navigate my entire 4 years at Ohio Wesleyan from that one class. And that professor has no idea that changed my trajectory at OWU, but just those little moments and that one suggestion can really change your path in college, for sure. For sure. Do we want to go back to the poll and touch on maybe extracurriculars or internships? I also see there's a lot for athletics in terms of talking about those things on your tour. So do you want to talk a little bit about athletics and how to talk with coaches and what that looks like on the tours, Connor?
Yeah, of course. So for any of you who are, dead set on being a student athlete, or just thinking about it, thinking about, this is something I might want to do in college, get in touch with the coaches, whether it's a head coach or an assistant coach, or, even get in touch with a player or someone who's on the team when you're on tour. Do tours through the admission office and see what that is like, but also do tours with coaches. Go to the athletic centers, walk around, see if that's an atmosphere that you want to be a part of. Get to know the team atmosphere itself. How do they operate? How do they, build a successful culture within their team? Those are really important things that you can do. And, what I always tell everybody, because I work with a lot of student athletes, is that student athlete is a big word. And, most every college in the world, that's how it works. It comes first, student, then athlete. And your coaches are going to say that too. And they want you to be the best student that you can be, and they want you to be the best athlete that you can be. So for me, the biggest advice to athletes that I say is just go talk with coaches, talk with players, and see what that culture is like. See how they just work. See how their day-to-day is. See how their culture is built. And I think that's one of the greatest things you can do. A lot of admission and athletic offices work together. So usually you can set up an athletic visit through the admission office. And it's really a one-stop shop that way. It makes things a lot easier. But that's the biggest advice I have for that.
Awesome. And I did see a question that came through on the chat of what is the right timing to visit campus? Your timing is your timing. I think if we think in the grand scheme of our timeline in terms of when we read applications and do scholarships and financial aid, I would recommend students coming sometime in the fall to visit campus or do the virtual sessions. Really focus on getting to know universities and narrowing down your list in the fall, maybe to 4, 5 different universities that you're applying to. If you're applying, the Common App makes it a little bit easier to apply to a lot of different schools. But narrowing it down to 4 or 5 that you apply to, I think is a good number of schools to be talking about financial aid, to be talking about, is this a right fit? I'll pause about what is the Common App. The Common App is the application that you use to apply to college. Every university has their own application, but admission counselors sometimes even prefer the Common application because it's easier for you all to fill out one application and send it to multiple schools. Some schools will request additional information, but the Common App will tell you what your schools require. And so you won't be able to submit your application until all the fields are filled out for all of the schools you're applying to. But narrow down your list to 4 or 5 schools in the fall and submit your applications before December. That way it's out of your hands. You can enjoy your Christmas break and not have to think about your application anymore. You've submitted it and it's now in the college admission hands to give you a decision in your financial aid package. And I think some schools do a rolling admission where when you apply, they'll give you an answer back within a couple of weeks, and some schools will wait until a month after you apply or 2 months after you apply. It just depends on the way the school does it. We do rolling admission at Ohio Wesleyan, but it varies from school to school. And then in January, in February, March, be making those final visits to campus. So you've applied, you've gotten your admission decision, you know what your financial aid package is, then go back and visit your top 1 or 2, maybe even 3 schools a second time. Because for some schools, they may have specific events for admitted students that caters a little bit more towards getting the feel for campus, getting to know the more in-depth nitty-gritty of what it would look like to go to college at whatever institutions you've applied to. Connor, do you have anything to add about the timeline of visiting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a proponent of starting early. So even though I didn't, but yeah, start early, but also, don't make it everything you're doing your senior year. That's always a big thing that I say is, take it easy. Don't stress too much about that timeline and about how it is. There are deadlines that you do have to hit, but universities will be awesome at telling you what those are. So yeah, just take it stress-free the best you can. Enjoy your senior year. Be happy about that. Enjoy your friends and your teachers there. And then you'll get to college when you get there, but take it as stress-free as you can. That's what I have to say.
Absolutely. Another question that just came through: if you're not able to visit campus before you apply, will that affect my application? It depends on the school. Some schools will look at demonstrated interest as a part of your application, but I would say most schools are going to waive what that looks like, or they're going to say if you've attended a virtual session with us, if you've talked to an admission counselor, then that is your demonstrated interest. But you don't have to visit a campus before you apply. I think sometimes you may find the right fit in December or even January. You didn't know a certain school existed and it comes to be on your radar and you're like, this is the school, apply. And the admission process it ebbs and flows. And I think at the end of the day, the real deadlines to think about are February 1st, March 1st. Some schools will have February 1st as their application deadline. Some schools are March 1st. So keeping those in mind, and then May 1st, which is the decision deadline. This past year, everyone moved not everyone, a lot of schools moved to June 1st as their decision deadline, given the global pandemic. But I think at the end of the day, that looking for schools in the application process, the February March 1 and the May 1 are the most important deadlines to keep in mind.
I'll say too that, we in admission and we admission counselors, we're human, and we know that not everybody can get to campus. Courtney, you work with a lot of students from California. not
do.
all Californians are gonna make it to Ohio all the time before they can apply. And so we know that. And so what I tell everybody is, when I think of the word visit, I think of the idea of just being a part of that university, learning about it, and getting the best experience that you can. So whether that's talking to admission counselors or students or coaches, or going on the website, or doing something like this where you get to see our faces and hear a little bit more about that specific school. For us, that's what we look at. We want you to be invested. We want you to show a little bit of interest, but we know that not everybody can physically get there, and that's perfectly okay.
No one in my territory can drive to campus. So most of my students that I work with are flying. So I think talking with those students who have not visited campus before too. There's a lot of international students as well who never come to campus before they apply and and make a decision on where they're gonna go. So like Connor says, those virtual options are really great. Connor, do you want to talk a little bit about what to see outside of campus, how to get a feel for the city, whether it's Columbus, Delaware, New York City, what that looks like?
Yes, I can. And I'll share a funny story in this as well. But for me, one of the biggest things that builds to the campus culture and the college culture is the town that it's in. And for us, we're in Delaware, Ohio, which is kind of your quintessential small college town kind of a thing. And some other schools that you look at might be in cities, and they might be in rural areas. And, it's really different in how that affects the college itself. So those are things to look at. If you're looking at, a city school, whether that be, NYU or something along those lines, it's going to be a little different in terms of transportation to get there, to get from class to class, to building, to talk to students or professors. Hours might look different. Dining might look different. So that's a big thing to look at, is what is the university surrounded by? Personally, like I said, I'm from Medina, Ohio, and that's about an hour and a half to an hour to 45 minutes north of Delaware. I had never been to Delaware before. When someone mentioned it was in Delaware, I thought we were going to the state. And so for me, it was important to see what it was like in the area, to experience what that town was like, because as much as you're spending 4 years at the campus, you're spending 4 years at that town as well, and in that city or that surrounding area. We're 30 minutes from Columbus, so it's easy to get there. It's easy to experience that city life, but also have the small town life. And a lot of universities are like that too. I remember that on my one visit, we explored Delaware, saw what it was like. We went to the quintessential Hamburger Inn, which if you ever visit, it's fantastic. They've got great milkshakes. And we also went to a fried bologna place, because my parents are from the South, and that's a thing that you can do. I was unaware that bologna should come in a fried form, but so that's things that you can do. See the area around the school and see what it's like. Courtney, do you want to touch on that at all?
No, I think you really covered that topic. But the next question is specifically for you about being a student athlete.
Yeah.
And what that looks like.
Yeah. So I'll definitely jump into this. So how hard was it to be? Ooh, that's a great question. An important thing about being a student athlete is balance. So it is as hard as you let it be hard. And so, us and a lot of other schools have things in place to make it as easy as we can. But honestly, it comes down to time management. You've got practice, you've got games, you've got classes, you've got study sessions, you've got homework to do, projects to work on, and it's a lot to balance. And so for me, that was a big thing. That was one of the harder things and harder adjustments from high school, because when you go through high school, you might think it's an easy thing to balance both of those, or it might be hard at that point too. But when you get to college, it'll step up a little bit more, because there's a little bit more expectation from both sides, from the academics and the athletics. And like I said, there's lots of things to help out. So we and a lot of universities have something called study tables where you and your teammates are in the library a certain time, a couple days a week. That's just like an hour to know that you've got this time set aside to be able to schedule around it, see what your schedule might look like in that way. And so that's one of the harder things. So it's as hard as you make it, but time management's important. And there's lots of people too. So we have academic advisors. Your coaches will be there to help with time management and to help that. And coaches really check in with you too. So they'll check in and not just about grades and things like that. Of course they will. But they'll step in and be like, hey, how are you feeling? How's it going? Is there anything we can do? Can we stagger practice or workout times to make things easier for you? And there's a lot of universities that will have that conversation with you and coaches that will have that conversation with you to make it easier. So that's kind of what I'll say on that. Did you travel?
Will you add a little bit more about what travel looked like as a student athlete, staying overnight, missing class?
Yeah.
On the weekends if you were traveling?
Yes. So for the traveling aspect, you're going to play schools that are, close to you. Like we play a good amount of schools that are 30, 45 hour away, but you'll also play schools out of state. And so what that means is you may have an overnight trip, or you may have to leave early on a Friday. And the biggest piece you have with that is communication. So something I would do and our coach would do was give us the schedule as early as he could and say, I have given you, 5 different copies of this. Go hand it to your professors now. And basically that's so that your professors know that, okay, you have an away game this day. It might coincide with an exam or an essay due date or something. I'm glad you brought it to me now so we can have that conversation earlier. And I think honesty is a big portion too. So just keep in contact, be honest about, okay, I've got a lot going on right now. We've got to leave early. I need to go talk to my professor right now to say, hey, we're going to be leaving a little early on Thursday for an away game. Is there anything I can do to stay up to date, to keep track in class, those kinds of things? And so I think a lot of that helps out with the timing portion. Usually you're not gone super long. So it's not like you're gone for more than a day. You'll be back usually the next one. A lot of schools save travel for like spring break, things like that too.
This has been great. We've got about maybe 7 or 10 minutes left. I thought maybe one of the things we could do as we start to wrap up is maybe give us like your top 3 things to think about in the next, over the summer. Like as you're getting into these campus tours, you're going on visits, you're getting ready. We have a separate session about applying, but maybe give us your top 3. We'll start with Courtney and just take a minute to do that before we wrap up.
Oh, the tough questions, Rob. Okay, so the top 3 things that I would say to think about right now. Look and see if any schools have openings to visit in person. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's okay, but there are some schools who you can just walk around campus. You probably can't go in a ton of buildings and things like that, but you can at least talk to someone if you're wearing your mask, and they have hand sanitizer everywhere. So do some research on what schools are open. I would say spend a lot of time this summer watching webinars, podcasts. I know if you're driving to and from, that's a shameless plug for Connor and I. We did a podcast this past year called Bishop Banter, but a lot of schools have also done podcasts that talk about specific things that you're interested in. So as we were talking about athletics, there's a podcast episode about OWU athletics, about what it's like to be a student athlete, where Connor and I talked to 2 coaches who give lots of advice and talk about the travel and the balance between being a student and being an athlete. And then the last thing that I would say this summer is be thinking about narrowing down your list as you're doing webinars and thinking about where do you want to visit, because the world looks different right now. Because things are so much more virtual, there's a lot more resources out there for you all to look at. So utilize those online resources and narrow down your schools virtually so that you don't have to do as much in-person visiting. because you can get a strong sense of academic culture, whether it's through a podcast. We have something called iCubed lectures as well that give you a strong sense of our academic culture on campus. iCubed lectures are 3-minute lectures given by 10 professors every fall at OWU, and they pick their topics. And so that gives you a strong sense of who our professors are and what they're really passionate about in the academic culture surrounding OWU. And then our students get to give those iCubed lectures in the spring. So looking at all of those videos, podcasts, webinars this summer to start narrowing down your list for where you want to visit come fall or winter when you can. And if we don't end up being able to visit people in person, reach out, don't be shy. We are very friendly people as admission counselors. We love to talk, as you can tell. Connor and I have filled an entire hour of just giving you information. We're extremely passionate about helping you find a home. This whole search is about finding a home for 4 years. This is going to be a network you're going to build that you will have for the rest of your life. And so how can we as admission counselors help you find your best fit, your home, and giving you as much information as we possibly can? Connor, any other tidbits of advice? Your top
Yeah,
3?
I wrote my 3 down so I would remember what they were. The first one I will say, and it doubles down on what Courtney had to say as well, is, narrow down your interests, whether it is academic or extracurricular. If it's the classes you want to study or the sport you want to play or whatever your interest is, whether it's knitting, which we have a knitting club, whether it is hacky sack, or if it's frisbee golf, or if it's volunteer work, or whatever it is, narrow down what those interests are and those important things. Courtney, you mentioned it earlier, those non-negotiables, those things that you can't be without. Figure out what those things are. My second one, and this is an important one, and it might be hard because I wouldn't have wanted to do this in high school, but talk with your parents. Key them in on what you're thinking, what you want to do. Just so that way it's a conversation, because they're going to be with you on most visits. In person, they're probably going to be driving you there or going with you. Parents, family, guardian, friends, whoever it is, key them in, talk with them. Have those conversations, because they might have a tidbit of information that you haven't thought of, or they might help expand on something you love. And that actually leads me to my third one, which is, don't just do the research and narrow in and explore things that you're good at. Do the research and explore things that you love. Find those things that make you happy. Go find those schools that have that. And that's one of the most important things. I say this to a lot of the families that I work with, is we're not just working with students and helping them to be successful in a career. We're helping them to have a successful life in whatever that means for them, whether it is their career or family or friends or, the volunteer work that they do or whatever it is. Find that thing that you love and chase it. So that's my 3.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists this evening. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And just as a reminder, we do have an entire series of these events. So stay tuned for the Bishop Plus Road to College series. We're going to take next week off in that it's a holiday week. And so we hope you are off to a great start to summer. We're gonna pick it up next on July 8th, again at 6 p.m. Eastern time. The next topic is going to be called "Oh, the Places You'll Go," capital OH, like our home state. This is going to be our liberal arts edition. So you're going to hear from not just Ohio Wesleyan, but from about a half a dozen Ohio liberal arts colleges, just talking about the value of liberal arts and opportunities. And so you're going to hear from a number of schools in that liberal arts context, all within the great state of Ohio. Certainly, if you have any questions following up tonight, you can email either of our panelists. We'll make sure to get that information to you. This session has been recorded, so we'll be able to share that it's going to be most likely live on our site, but we will get that to you if you ever want to take a look for reference. Once again, just want to thank both Connor and Courtney. Great to see them and hear from them and their insights tonight. Thanks to all of you for contributing via the poll and our chat box. You can find more information at www.owu.edu. I'm Rob Walton. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Have a great night.